Let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually read the back of that Hovis or Warburtons loaf sitting in your bread bin? The one you use for your morning toast or the kids' packed lunches every single day? Because if you did, you'd probably freeze. You'd see 15, maybe 20 ingredients, things like E471, diatom, calcium, propionate. These aren't ingredients, they're an industrial formula. Today, we are exposing the Great British Bread Fraud. You're going to find out how the industry uses a chemical that can also be found in yoga mats to give your loaf that soft, fresh feeling. I'm going to show you why that healthy wholemeal you're buying in Tesco is often just refined, white flour dyed brown with caramel. And we will break down exactly which brands to avoid at Morrisons, Sainsbury's and Asda, backed by actual food laboratory data. Make sure you stick around for that, because what I'm going to reveal about one of the UK's most trusted premium brands near the end genuinely made me angry. By the time this video finishes, you won't just be outraged. You'll know exactly which loaf from the real bakery section or the freezer is genuinely 100% bread, and how to spot it yourself in seconds. Here's the base truth they don't want you to know. Real bread requires only 4 ingredients: flour, water, salt, and yeast. That's it. That's the entire recipe that has fed humanity for millennia. A sourdough loaf needs even less. Just flour, water, salt, and a living starter culture. You mix, you let it prove, you bake. It's that simple. There are no dough conditioners, no preservatives, no added sugars, and no chemicals you need a degree in chemistry to pronounce. But the modern supermarket bread aisle has taken that simple concept and engineered it into oblivion. The 4-ingredient food has been corrupted by a massive toolkit of dough conditioners, bleaching agents, preservatives, emulsifiers, and added sugars. These ingredients exist for the convenience of the factory, not for your health. Consider this: dough conditioners are added just so the massive batches of dough can move through high-speed industrial machinery without sticking or tearing, and to make it rise in a fraction of the time natural fermentation requires. It's like taking a standard family car and filling it with racing fuel, adding a nitro boost, and fitting it with tyres designed for a Formula 1 track, all just to drive 2 miles down the road to the local shops. It's overkill, it's not natural, and it fundamentally changes the product. Then there are the preservatives, which keep a loaf soft on your counter for 2 weeks when real bread would mold in 3 days. They are powerful enough to stop natural decomposition. That isn't food, that is a chemical triumph over nature. Every paragraph in this introduction should make you question the simple act of making a sandwich. And trust me, it gets much worse when we look at the actual labels. Let's talk about store brands, starting with Tesco, Asda, and Sainsbury's budget loaves. A standard Tesco white or Asda Just Essentials sliced white loaf costs pennies, often well under £1. These ultra-low prices are achieved by using the cheapest possible ingredients and the fastest possible production methods, known as the Chorleywood bread process. This industrial method skips long fermentation entirely. Instead of letting the dough develop over hours, factories use high-speed mixing and a cocktail of additives to force the dough to rise in minutes. The foundation is enriched flour, which is a nutritionally hollowed-out version of the whole grain. The milling process strips the bran and the germ, removing the fiber, healthy fats, and vitamins. What remains is starchy endosperm, which is then legally required to be patched up with 4 synthetic nutrients: iron, niacin, thiamine, and calcium. Store brands are produced by contract manufacturers whose identities are hidden. The formulation can shift between purchases, meaning the savings at the register come at the cost of the nutrition real bread is supposed to provide. Next is Kingsmill, owned by Allied Bakeries, a massive division of Associated British Foods. Kingsmill is a household name across the UK, trusted by millions for everyday school lunches. But if you turn over a loaf of Kingsmill 50/50 or their soft white, the ingredient list reads like an industrial chemistry manual. Beyond flour and water, you'll find emulsifiers like E471 and E472E, which are mono and diglycerides of fatty acids, and DATM. These compounds act as chemical structural scaffolds. In traditional baking, time and skill build a strong, elastic gluten network naturally. Kingsmill skips this process to save time, using chemical conditioners to artificially trap gas, increase volume, and create that ultra-soft, uniform crumb. The concern with emulsifiers like DATM and E471 is their potential effect on your body, because these ingredients are legally classified as emulsifiers rather than fats. Any small amounts of trans fats they contain do not have to be declared on the nutritional panel. Furthermore, emerging research from organizations like the British Medical Journal has questioned whether dietary emulsifiers alter the gut microbiome and weaken the protective lining of the intestine. When a loaf stays pillowy soft for days, it's not because of traditional baking craft. It's due to an industrial emulsifier cocktail mimicking structure while skipping time. If you think stepping up to a premium heritage brand protects you, look at Hovis. Hovis relies heavily on a nostalgic, artisanal British image, using marketing that invokes images of old-fashioned, careful baking. Yet, their standard soft white and wholemeal loaves are structurally identical to the cheaper options. Hovis loaves frequently contain added vegetable oils, emulsifiers like E472E, and the preservative calcium propionate. This specific chemical preservative, also known as E282, works by disrupting the energy metabolism of molds and bacteria, preventing them from growing. Real bread from a local bakery spoils within days because real food is biodegradable. A supermarket loaf can sit in your bread box for weeks without growing a spot of mold. While the industry treats this as safe, peer-reviewed studies have explored whether calcium propionate contributes to digestive discomfort or behavioral changes in children. Sourdough naturally produces organic acids that slow mold growth without chemicals, but Hovis uses calcium propionate to ensure a long distribution chain. The premium price you pay for Hovis covers the heritage branding and packaging, not a cleaner or more natural product inside. Now, let's look at Warburtons, the absolute giant of the British bread aisle. Family-owned and deeply trusted, Warburtons commands a massive share of the UK market. But their toasty white and half loaves are heavily processed. A major concern here is hidden added sugars. Real bread requires no sugar, but fast-fermented industrial dough is flat and bland. Warburtons and other mass-market brands add sugar or dextrose to make the bread more palatable and to ensure the crust browns quickly during the short, hot industrial baking process. This means a standard sandwich can deliver several grams of added sugar before you even add a filling. For anyone managing blood sugar or diabetes, this hidden sugar is a genuine concern because it is completely unexpected in a savory staple. Warburtons also utilizes a vast array of dough conditioners to ensure their high-speed machinery can process millions of loaves a day without sticking. It is the definitive example of a brand prioritizing factory efficiency over the traditional kitchen definition of bread. The most deceptive sector of the entire aisle is the healthy wholemeal and multigrain category found across all major supermarkets. Many loaves that appear to be rustic whole grain are actually refined, white flour with just enough whole wheat or caramel coloring added to look dark and healthy. A product can be legally labeled wheat bread or multigrain, while being made primarily from refined white flour because white flour is technically derived from wheat. Manufacturers frequently use caramel coloring or barley malt extract to tint a refined loaf brown, triggering the consumer's psychological association between dark bread and health. Refined flour is rapidly digested into glucose, causing a sharp spike in blood sugar, whereas genuine whole grain slows digestion. Choosing what you believe is a healthy wholemeal options based on color means you may be eating white bread that has simply been tanned. If you already feel like checking your cupboard, subscribe now, because the systemic mechanics of this deception only run deeper. And now, what it was worth watching all the way through for. We've spent enough time looking at the industrial wreckage inside our bread bins. So let's talk about the real food you can actually buy in British shops right now that rewards your body instead of tricking it. This isn't an advertising brochure. It's a breakdown of genuine craft that survives on supermarket shelves if you know where to look. We start with Jason's sourdough, which has become widely available across Tesco, Sainsbury's, Asda, and Waitrose. This brand is the perfect mainstream bridge away from Chorleywood rubbish. Their great white loaf is packaged like a standard sandwich bread, but the production philosophy is entirely traditional. They use a classic slow fermentation method with an authentic mother dough culture. Turn the bag over and look at the ingredient list. Wheat flour, water, rye flour, salt, and fermented wheat flour. That is it. No commercial yeast, no datim, no calcium propionate, and absolutely zero added sugars. The texture is vastly different from the chemically inflated cushion of a standard supermarket loaf. It has a robust, chewy crumb, real structure, and that distinct, tangy sourdough depth. Price-wise, it usually sits around £2 to £2.50 per loaf. Compared to a 60p budget white loaf, it is a definitive step up in cost, but when you convert it to cost per serving, you are paying pennies more per slice for an honest, additive-free food that supports your gut microbiome. www.esda.com, miss your one. If you want a reliable, everyday mixed grain loaf without the industrial processing aids, look for Vogel's, available in most major supermarkets like Sainsbury's and Waitrose. Founded on the principles of Swiss nutritionist Alfred Vogel, this brand explicitly rejects the standard corporate toolkit. In every loaf of Vogel's soya and linseed or original mixed grain, you will find no artificial preservatives, no emulsifiers, and no added sugars. Instead, they rely on a nutrient-dense blend of fortified wheat flour, kibbled wheat, kibbled soya, and brown linseed. The bread is dense, deeply nutty, and satisfyingly heavy. It doesn't dissolve into a ball of doughy paste between your fingers like mass-market alternatives, because it retains the natural structural integrity of the intact seeds and grains. At roughly £2 for a large loaf, it competes directly on price with the premium-tier marketing brands like Hovis or Pepperidge Farm equivalents, but delivers a completely clean, unadulterated product that keeps your blood sugar stable for a completely traditional craft-scale option on mainstream shelves. Burtonette Bakery is an absolute standout, frequently found in Waitrose and Ocado. Burtonette explicitly states that they only bake real sourdough using a slow fermentation process, rejecting commercial fast-acting yeast entirely. Their sliced white sourdough is built on basic flour, water, sea salt, and ancient grains like emmer, and spelt to enhance the nutritional profile and natural flavor depth. They use absolutely no additives, meaning this bread will mold within days if left out, which is exactly the green light you are looking for. It is the real thing, sliced for daily convenience. It does carry a premium price tag, often approaching £3 per loaf, making it an investment choice. The downside is that its shelf life is short, so you must toast it after a couple of days or freeze it immediately. But for anyone wanting an uncompromising bakery-grade loaf from a supermarket aisle, this is the gold standard. www.independent.co.uk. If you are willing to hunt online or visit specialist natural food stores in the UK, you can find Food for Life's Ezekiel 4-9 sprouted grain bread. This is arguably the cleanest commercial loaf in existence. It uses no flour whatsoever. Instead, organic whole grains and legumes, including wheat, barley, millet, lentils, soybeans, and spelt, are germinated and sprouted before being crushed into a live dough and baked. Sprouting breaks down anti-nutrients like phytic acid, making minerals significantly more bioavailable and rendering the bread incredibly easy to digest. It contains 0 preservatives, 0 fats, and 0 sugar. Because of this complete lack of chemistry, it is sold exclusively frozen. It is expensive, often costing around £5 to £6 a loaf, but for anyone managing severe insulin resistance or gut health issues, this is a therapeutic whole food rather than just a sandwich base. www.dfofforlifefuke.com. Finally, the ultimate option is the loaf you bake yourself. For less than 50 pence in basic flour, water, salt and yeast, you can completely opt out of the industrial food system. It requires less than 10 minutes of active work if you use a simple no-knead overnight method. You mix the 4 ingredients in a bowl, let it sit on your counter for 12 hours to ferment naturally, shape it, and bake it inside a hot, heavy pot. You get the exact same nutritious, crusty bread that fed civilizations for thousands of years, with complete control over what goes into your family's bodies. To completely avoid being cheated by industrial marketing tricks again, you need to remember 6 clear rules the next time you browse the shelves at Tesco, Sainsbury's or Morrison's. First, look for the real bread validation or count the ingredients yourself. Real bread never requires more than flour, water, salt and yeast, plus perhaps some seeds or grains. If the list stretches to 15, 20 or 30 entries, the loaf has transitioned from a food staple into an engineered science project designed for factory speed. The absolute length of that ingredient panel is your clearest warning sign. Second, recognize the brown bread illusion. Terms like wheat bread, multigrain, or made with wholemeal are clever marketing tools designed to distract you. Check the first ingredient on the back. It must say 100% wholemeal flour. If it starts with enriched wheat flour or features barley malt extract and caramel for coloring, you are simply purchasing white bread dressed up in a dark, healthy-looking costume. Third, intentionally reject chemical dough conditioners. Inspect the packaging carefully and put back any loaf containing datim, E471, E472E, or any long chain of mono and diglycerides. These additives exist solely to rush the structural development of the dough, skipping the essential hours of traditional fermentation. Fourth, seek out the bread that naturally spoils. A loaf that remains unnaturally soft and completely free of mold on your counter for 2 full weeks has been heavily dosed with calcium propionate or other synthetic preservatives to survive long distribution routes. Real food spoils. Purchase fresh loaves from the in-store bakery sections at M&S or Waitrose, consume what you need within a few days, and freeze the rest immediately. Fifth, prioritize authentic sourdough or sprouted grain. True sourdough relies entirely on a live starter culture and extended fermentation times, which naturally breaks down hard-to-digest starches, moderates the peak blood sugar response, and leaves you feeling genuinely satisfied. The entire mass-market baking industry has spent decades convincing the British public that a hyperinflated, ultra-soft cushion of processed chemicals is the natural standard for a loaf of bread. They deliberately use rustic branding, images of wheat fields, and historical logos to lower your guard while filling their recipes with cheap emulsifiers, hidden sugars, and texturizers. It is an industrial deception that trades your long-term gut health and blood sugar stability for corporate efficiency and extended shelf life. You completely stop being a victim of this system the exact moment you ignore the front of the bag, flip the loaf over, and read the raw facts printed on the back. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this investigation through to the end. If this breakdown has opened your eyes to what is hidden inside everyday family food, please share it with a friend or family member who relies on a daily sandwich. I want to hear from you directly in the comments below. Which of these major supermarket brands is sitting in your bread bin right now, and are you going to finish the loaf? If you want to see exactly how the food industry uses similar chemical engineering tricks to manipulate another massive breakfast staple, click on our deep dive into supermarket orange juices appearing on your screen right now. Stop buying